But if you are consistent and you are persevering and you just keep on working on something that you know will revolutionize the whole industry, well, it will happen. I mean, it's just a matter of time, before it does.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Breakthrough Blueprint. I'm Rohan, and I'm joined here today by Boris, who is the CEO of LetYouKnow Inc, and he's also a TEDx speaker. Thank you so much for joining here today, man. It's really, really a pleasure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rohan. I definitely would love to talk to you and your audience and share whatever little that I know and that can be actually helpful to a lot of people. So yeah, that's great to be on the show.
So one thing I want to start off with is just that you've definitely done a lot. I don't know a lot of people who could say that they're TEDx speakers or people who've done as much as you have with LetYouKnow Inc. And I kind of want to know where this all came from. So if you could just walk me through your story of how you got to where you are right now, that'd be great. I just want to hear it.
Yeah, so I'm not sure whether I have like a typical journey whether somebody, is born all of a sudden they have like this roadmap, of what's going to happen. Like you watch the documentary by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's talking about these mountains that, that
Yeah.
he already has a vision that you're going to climb, right? He knows that he's going to become the best bodybuilder, and then he knows that he's going to conquer Hollywood and politics and all that jazz. So in my case, I think it was just a random deflection of just things that are happening, I guess, in the universe. But at the same time, I actually had a lot of good role models in my life. I mean, my grandpa, he had a PhD in physics, so
Oh my God. Jeez.
we used to debate quite a bit about mathematics and all that interesting stuff. And then my mom, she's an oncologist, so there was a lot of hard work that went into it, right? Like MD and stuff like that. But anyway, the point, I guess, what I'm trying to say is that from my early childhood, I was kind of exposed to what the work ethics is all about, right? And
Mhm.
I had those set of values that were kind of, got structured, right, in me as a person. I mean, I'm not saying that was something that all of a sudden, made me to do certain things that, happened, but it definitely helped. Because I mean, if you are the person who is disciplined, who can grind those hours, right? And I mean, it definitely helps. So that's kind of what started. But then later in life, I mean, it's just I I had a lot of I would say a lot of tools at my disposal that I learned in school, yeah, in terms of mathematics and statistics and all that.
Was
And
that like your big thing? Was mathematics like the STEM fields? Was that always something that you like enjoyed, or was that something that you kind of developed as you time went on?
Yeah, see, it's not exactly, I don't want to say that it was a straight shot to that. Because
Okay.
you see, in fact, for my undergrad degree, I went to a liberal arts school, and the focus
Oh
wasn't
wow.
in, yeah, so it was econ. Economics, I can tell you, on the undergrad level, it's purely, I don't want to say that it's kind of like, philosophy or anything like this. It's
It's very
still quite,
conceptual because I take
well, yeah,
economics classes that's very, very conceptual. There's very little math.
exactly. And that's the key. There are a lot of concepts, not as much math, right? And then you transition into graduate, right? We're talking about, PhD and stuff like that. All of a sudden, it becomes purely the opposite. There is really no wiggle room. It's really math. It doesn't really what you do.
Really. So in the P for
It,
the PhD realm, it's strictly just math, like how much you
it's
know.
exactly. There is no difference whether you're going to get a PhD in
Why is it
physics.
like that then?
Well, the reason for it is because, when you talk to undergrads, you need to prepare them to understand intuitively what econ is all about, right? I mean, you need to make sure that people can actually connect. Because a lot
Yeah,
of
that
times
makes
when
sense.
you talk in the language of mathematics, it's not obvious what you're trying to accomplish, right? Because
Yeah.
you have all these different tools, like there is a Fourier transform, there is a log linearization, there are all kinds of different statistical tools that are available to you, like all these stationary, non-stationary processes and things like that. And it's not obvious what actually stands behind it, what you're trying to accomplish. So first, you got to have a good intuitive feel what economics is all about, right? Like, let's say if somebody says we're going to raise taxes or we're going to do this, what are the repercussions, okay, of those type of policies? And so I believe that the idea is that what you're trying to do, you're trying to get people to understand it first. Once they understand it, it becomes, I don't want to say easier, but maybe, okay, then you can build the mathematical,
That makes sense. Yeah,
I guess,
developing that. Yeah,
like, yeah, your arsenal, right?
because it's
But
interesting with physics, like because I took physics a lot during high school,
sure,
and right off the bat, they start off with crazy mathematics stuff. It's very the concepts and the math are very much intertwined. Because I took up to like electrical engineering, like that kind of level, and even
right.
then, the mathematics and the concepts were so intertwined. Like it was very, very different than economics.
Right. And also, I can tell you there is a difference. I mean, like I said, I came from a liberal arts background, and then when you go to, when you go to a doctorate and stuff like that, I mean, it becomes like totally opposite of it. But I also took in my last year, I took courses at Johns Hopkins, like in the senior level, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden I noticed that those classes were also all about mathematics, mathematics,
Yeah,
mathematics.
John Hopkins would
So
definitely be
yeah,
like that.
yeah. So I feel like it also depends. Like there is liberal arts versus those national research universities, right? And there is a difference between the two. There is definitely some kind of common element, right? Some intersection. So yeah, you still need to have the sort of like a good feel what you're working with. So econ will still have a lot of intuitive concepts
Yeah,
that you got to build in, but mathematics maybe plays a bigger role, I guess, in those national research universities. So, and of course, that's what you do when you go to doctorate. I mean, all of a sudden you're exposed to those, top 100 schools, etc., and it becomes mathematics all the way. So that could be also a factor. But I mean, like
yeah,
I said, and the funny thing is, I remember that when I was part of the class, um, um, typically you start with like, let's say 20, or something people in your class for the doctorate. Most of them are going to be gone. It's just a grinder, like a meat grinder, really.
yeah, definitely.
It's not like you just sit and you somehow graduate. Most of you will not graduate. That's the reality of things, even though all of them are brilliant. But I can tell you that majority of people who were in my class never actually went to something like I did, to a liberal arts school. There was only one other guy I know. He went to a liberal arts school, and he didn't make it. But he was brilliant. I mean, it just
Yeah,
and I think it kind of like a testament. I don't want to say it's a testament to mathematics, but maybe the people who actually had mathematics from the get-go, they kind of had a little bit of an advantage in a way that they were already exposed to all these
yeah,
different tools. Like for instance, they are the ones who took all those different differential equations and many other things, right? And so it definitely helps. So anyway, so to cut the long story
yeah.
short, okay, yeah,
I mean,
it's
okay, but I want to go back though, because what was your mindset during those times where, you see your fellow classmates who already have this mathematical background accelerating and exceeding, while you with a liberal arts degree aren't at that kind of level yet? Like, what was your mentality? Like, what were you thinking during that?
well, quite honestly, you're just thinking you gotta survive, so you gotta work. So,
Okay.
and at the end of the day, I believe it doesn't. I mean, it helps, but it doesn't matter as much because I feel like there are these little differences. Like, imagine that, and that's what I noticed. Imagine that somebody, okay, gonna take their Saturday as a day off. I mean, it's only Saturday, right? It's no problem. You're working real hard, 24, 6, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, you put in a lot of good work, right? So, and everybody would say, man, that's definitely a lot of work somebody has put, into this
Yeah, definitely.
academic right degree, to achieve it. And then that one day becomes a difference because somebody like me, let's say somebody like me doesn't take that day as as their mini vacation or whatever you want to call it, and you just end up out muscling. And so the somebody who did it, and so those little things, they add up. And so your mindset and my mindset was definitely such that I knew that I had to put 100%, right, of whatever I have. And that's what I did. I just worked real hard and never gave up in a way that.
That was like the biggest differentiator between people who finished like you, who became very successful, and the others. Like, did you apply that mindset of 24/7 versus 24/6 to everything you did in life? Was that pretty much like your, I guess,
Yeah,
your mind map?
that is exactly right. And you have to understand that it's easier to talk about it, right? Because you don't see the clouds on the horizon. It's kind of
Yeah,
like you just talk as if you're already coming from point A to point Z, right? And you think like, okay, so this is all pretty clear how I'm going to get from here to here. But in reality, it doesn't work like this, right? Live, the way it happens is you're kind of going through those streaks where it seems like there is no sunshine at the end of the tunnel, and somehow you just have to keep working, keep working, keep working. And all of a sudden, even though it seems like it's hopeless, right? But over time, that makes such a huge difference, because if you look back and you did put all that hard work, you look back and you realize, holy moly, I'm actually at this point right here because of all
yeah,
that grind, because of all the hard work that I actually, relentlessly put into what I'm trying to accomplish. And everything in life is like this. I remember there was recently there was an interview with Elon Musk, and somebody said like, were you considering like at some point giving up? Because a lot of people think that, oh man, I mean, Tesla, that's a pretty recent phenomena, just, came out of nowhere. Well, no, the company is over 20 years old, right? I mean, and it took like years of absolutely no guarantees of anything, right? I mean, it was pretty much like a fold every single, like I'm talking about the prospect of
yeah,
fold.
definitely.
Yeah,
They had
it
no
was like
idea
a
that it
cake.
was going to be. They had no guarantee that it was going to be something this big. But like, my question is, why were you? So I think in general society, there's a lot of times where we see people who have the ability to just grind. Like, they can just, no matter what happens, they will be in the library or they'll be in their business working like relentlessly. And then you also have the other side of people who, I guess, are on the mindset of the 24/6 or 24/5, where they'll take 2 days off or 1 day off or 3 days off, however many days off they take. What was the reason? What in your mind? Why were you able to always be the type of person who was a 24/7 type of guy versus everyone else who was like a 24/6, 24/5? What was the difference between, like, what was your like? Why were you able to do that, and why were some of the other people not able to do that?
Well, I mean, I don't want to necessarily say that. Maybe it's true. Maybe they are not able to do it, and maybe it's not exactly true. I don't know, because there are just so many, infinitely many factors in life. In reality, it's not exactly just comparing one parallel to the next. I mean, there are so many other things that are kind of shaping, those two parallels that all of a sudden don't look like parallels. But I can tell you from my perspective, some people, okay, I feel like. May value, like, let's say today, the current state, right, and enjoying life a lot more. So their discount value, like let's say, when I say discount value, I'm talking about something. How much do you
Discount value.
value? Well, how much do you value, like, let's say, the future versus today,
Yeah,
right? So, like, let's say the discount value is pretty high, so you don't value future maybe as much, but you want to enjoy your life today, and most of us do, right? We want to enjoy our life, and so they put a lot of weight on what is happening today, and so they want to enjoy their life, and you cannot blame them because you only have one life, right? I mean, that's it. And then there are some people like me who actually want to get something done in the future, and they value that a lot higher, like, let's say, than whatever is currently taking place. And so for me, I kind of look at this whole shebang from a perspective. What if I don't put 100% of my effort? What if I enjoy life today? And what will happen, like, let's say, when I arrive at that point in the future, and let's say it fails? Well, the
mhm,
problem for me, and I'm talking about just me, not somebody else. But the problem for me is that I will feel a lot of regrets that I have not done X, Y, and so many other things, right? during this journey, and that's what happened, and that's the reason that I'm actually staring at a failure. You see what I mean? I think it's perfectly okay to fail. I'm not concerned about it. I'm more concerned, what if I actually don't give 100% and it happens? Then I'm
Your
like,
fear is that like you will end up failing. Like your fear is that every day you're not. Is it like you want to make sure that you're always progressing each day and getting better and putting in your all? That's what keeps you motivated. You are fearful of, I guess, being average or of being like everyone else and not achieving that type of thing.
and being complacent, that's the key. Being
Complacent.
complacent, like if I all of a sudden become complacent and then I don't achieve because of that, well, I'm going to be blaming myself for the rest of my life, and then my life is not enjoyable too. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, and then all of a sudden, the optics change in such a way that I'm going to be looking at that future, and I'm going to be looking at the present in the future, because at some point that future will become the present, right? And I'm
Yeah.
going to say, man, I could have. And I don't want to have that. That's not something that I'm even want to be entertaining. You see what I mean? As my reality. To me, failing is okay. But if I've done everything I could, I would be like, okay, I'm actually perfectly content with that. But if I didn't, that becomes the differentiator, and I don't want to, face that reality, I guess, so that's the key. And that's why I kind of mentioned Elon Musk in his interview, is that the point is he never entertained the idea of him quitting, and the reason for it is because he also doesn't want to face the reality of what could have if he did something different, right? So
Yeah.
that,
So like the power of regret is very, very. I think it's very, very prevalent. Like you, I think you can definitely see this in your life where the thought of even having some sort of regret when you're older of being like, man, I wish I worked harder when I was 20, or man, I wish I did this when I was 24. Like that is a scary thing.
yeah.
And you would definitely be like, has anything in your life been like that so far where you look back on your life and you see that you wish you did something, you wish you did something? Has that ever occurred in your life so far where you regret something, or how do you deal with that regret?
No, that's why I actually keep doing what I'm doing. So
Really? That's
yes,
that
that's why
good
I
for
don't
you.
have
That's good.
regrets. Yeah. I don't want to say that I've never had any failures,
Yeah,
but to me, even failures are not exactly failures, because at the end of the day,
yeah,
I managed to actually pull together what I was trying to do. So and
that's
I
great.
feel like if I'm going to continuously put in the same effort, and I'm just going to stay on the tangent of working hard and put in 100% and just persevering through all the challenges, I feel like I'm going to be all right,
Yeah,
and also you got to understand that there are tremendous benefits as well to everybody else, because whenever people innovate something, whenever people discover something, it definitely benefits the entire society. And I kind of like that, because I mean, for instance, when I did my dissertation, I invented methods of price computations that were just not there before. And to me, right, that's something that I actually contributed to human race. I kind of like that, right? Then when we did, like, let's say, what it's a mathematical models, right, of matching somebody bids, okay, on new cars, and immediately you get the result. It's kind of like Google, right? Because what is
yeah,
Google? If I type in name your price on a new car, organically will be one of top choices, right?
yeah.
Well, how is that? Because there are, those Markov
Yeah,
chains and
exactly.
whatever, matching methods that those guys are using. Well, the same with us. I mean, somebody bids, engine kicks in, and boom, you get the result immediately, whether it's a yes or no. But the point is, the underlying, mathematical framework behind it, the patent, right, that got approved in the US, all of that hasn't been done there, before either. And so to
Yeah,
me, I kind of take a great joy, right, of thinking like, well, we actually contributed something, like my team and I, right? We did something that has never been done before, and I enjoy that, and I just like keep pushing that envelope, keep pushing the frontier, right? So kind of like whenever you took those econ classes, they probably talked about PPF, right?
yeah.
Uh,
Yes, they did. They did.
so yeah. So that's the point. I mean, you keep pushing that, okay, and forward, okay. So that means that we can do a lot more
Mhm.
as as human beings, then
I find it kind of funny how far we've drifted from your story to this. And I wanna something I wanna also question that's not related to your story is how did you mentioned earlier that you may not regret anything in your life, but you've definitely had your fair share of failures. And I think that a lot of times now we stigmatize failures so much that we don't even try, where we don't even take the risk that would even end up in a failure or a success. And something I'm curious about is how do you handle failure when let's say, you apply for the patent and it doesn't go through? What is your mindset? Like, what are you thinking during those times? Like, what's your mentality?
Well, that's a great question because it may be that philosophy has started with people trying to make everybody feel great, like everybody are champions, right? But then when they all of a sudden become not a champion, right? Because the life itself is unforgiving. I mean, it's not exactly right like
Yeah,
everybody
definitely.
thinks, right? Yeah, you do see the differences when you are outside, and it can depress a lot of people. So anyway, so the whole idea is that I never took it this way. To me, a failure is just a step in. Okay, it's like there are these little stepping stones, right,
A
in the
stepping stone. Yeah,
journey, right, and then I just walk from one to the next, and I learn. So like, let's say if you say, okay, something is getting rejected, and I will be looking at it. Well, first of all, I'm going to understand, okay, so why it got rejected, right? Rather than like keep pounding, being stubborn, right? You gotta, okay, recalibrate. You gotta say, okay, so what went wrong, and learn from it. As soon as you learn from it, all of a sudden that failure, and you apply that, right? All of a sudden, think about this. Okay, if you are taking failure in such a way that, oh my God, everything failed, I mean, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, of course your whole state of mind is going to be pure depression with no purpose whatsoever. But if you take it from a perspective, well, let me try to understand why it actually failed, all of a sudden you're going to start looking at those cracks, right? Like
yeah, definitely.
some cracks that existed over there, and that's a new knowledge, right? Now think about how our minds work. As soon as we discover something, the light goes off, right? And I mean, we get energized by this, right? I mean, I know for sure I do. I look at something that all of a sudden I learn as something new, and that becomes an energy force behind my push, right? And
That's
that,
really cool. Yeah.
yeah, and I get excited. I say, holy moly! I actually just discovered something that can actually help me. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden, I'm applying, right, this new knowledge. I'm applying to make it better. And then you get some results. And then you all of a sudden you look at it and you say, you know what? It wasn't that bad actually, because of all those failures. I am now in a position far greater, in terms of what I achieved than I could have otherwise, right? I mean, and there are a lot of people. Like, look, let me give you an example. In tennis right now, Wimbledon is happening, right?
Yeah.
Djokovic, for instance, okay. So Noel, that's his, nickname, right? So when Federer and Nadal, right, they were like successful. That guy, barely made a crack at winning Grand Slams until maybe I don't remember exactly the year, but it was definitely not when he started. There were quite a few times that he failed, right? And a lot of people kind of like brush him maybe aside, thinking that he's not going to ever achieve or match the accomplishments of Rafa and Federer. And all of a sudden, that's not true, because he took those failures to
Yeah.
become better, right? To actually get his mental state to a point where now people are looking at him and they are saying, man, this guy is a machine. He's 36 years old, but it
Yeah.
doesn't really
36.
matter.
He's 36 and still doing this.
That makes no
Yeah.
difference. Exactly. He's just killing it.
Yeah.
But the key is, maybe the reason he is actually able to do all that is because he learned, from all these failures of the past, how to become better. And then you appreciate it a lot more. Because think about this: if somebody just gives you a lot of stuff in life and you don't have to work hard, there is absolutely no friction, well, then you may not even really appreciate it that much either, right? But if you
Yeah.
constantly have to learn because something failed, but then you have to learn how to get it better and better and better, well, you're going to be, as a result, at a higher like latitude, right,
Yeah.
relative to where you could have been, if you did not take it in a constructive manner, if you did not pursue this hard, and you did not learn from those mistakes and did not try to improve it, and did not try to see the other side as well, right? Because at the end of the day, when something fails, it's because you maybe did not quite understand the other side,
Yeah.
of whatever you're trying to accomplish, right? So, and that's something that kind of like at least helped me. And then as soon as you do, like I said, I mean, your cognitively, your mind goes ballistic. You like discover something that you have not even seen
Yeah,
before.
definitely.
And it's really interesting. I mean, it's like any actually discipline. Whenever you study, like let's say physics, you mentioned, or something else, and whenever you learn something cool, right, like something that you have not heard
You just
before,
want to keep learning more about it and keep going further. Yeah.
exactly, you get excited about it. You're like, oh man, that's a really cool, So you learn more about it, and then it kind of like drives your passion in a way, right? And so it's it's not a bad thing to actually fail if you take it constructively. Now, of course, granted, if somebody gonna just take it in a way that, oh man, I failed and that's it, this is the end of my life, as I know it. Well, of course, that's not going to be productive.
Yeah,
So you gotta have the right mindset to almost like train yourself to understand that this is not the end of the world. This is just your opportunity to get better.
definitely.
So
I
that's
mean,
how
I
I approach it.
I want to go back to your story though as well because we came so far from it. But so you were pursuing this PhD in economics. You
Yes,
produced a model of cost calculations, right?
yes.
And you were able to, I guess, invent something new that people really hadn't figured out before. And after this, what started happening? Did you start pursuing a path of entrepreneurship immediately? Like, what was your mindset after your PhD?
Actually, see, I got kind of lucky in a way. I don't want to say lucky or not lucky, but I went into academia first. And academia, the reason I'm saying lucky or not lucky, I guess, is because it allowed me a degree of flexibility where I had a lot of time on my hands outside of teaching, to really get something going, that I would not have otherwise. Okay, because I had like a ton of time that I collected a lot of data in automotive transactions, and I started putting together a lot of mathematical matching models, and started actually assembling a team of let you know, I guess, employees now. And all that was because I had that kind of flexibility. So it gradually, like, I'm not saying that I immediately knew what's going to happen. So first I stumbled on some data, then I started to do some estimations. Then I, all of a sudden realized there was a void. Then I realized that that could be potentially a marketplace that can be applied to any new goods and services, right? Not just automotive transactions or new cars, because why not actually empower people to bid on whatever? Like, let's say if I want to go to a restaurant and I want to have a credit of $60, why not, like, let's
Why
say
not bid on that as well?
20,
Yeah.
yeah, 28 on that 60 prepayment, right? So
That's
it
so
doesn't,
funny. That's so funny to
yeah,
think about, like going to a restaurant and bidding on a like a
yeah.
drink or something like that.
Yeah, and then you can do the same thing with a grocery store, right? I mean, because think about it. I mean, how many times you see that in the mail where those guys are saying, "Hey, spend $75, we give you like $15 credit," right? Or
Yeah.
like spend $100, we give you $20. Well, it's the same thing, but they could have actually said all that where nobody can see that and people can bid, right? So I want to get a prepayment at, like, let's say Safeway or Kroger, or like
Yeah.
Harris Teeter. It doesn't matter which store, right? So I want to get, let's say, $100, but I want to pay let's say 80, for it. Or 78. So the point is, the sky is the limit. And I mean, you can do that on bowling alleys, you can do it on haircuts, you can do it on all kinds of stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
oil changes, alignment, timing
And you
belts.
you started this whole, I guess, venture out of your dorm in academia. Is that pretty accurate?
Well, let me kind of go back. Technically speaking, it started in 2003. So I actually reserved a URL, letyouKnow.com, back 20 years ago.
Jeez,
So
wow.
yeah. So then, I mean, then I started collecting data, and not purposely, but it just happened that way. And then I guess gained a lot of knowledge, and I was able to apply, those methods of estimation to different different empirical data that I collected, right? And then I realized, oh man, I can actually do some matching over here. And then I remember I was flying from it was a 12, I believe it was a 12-hour flight from Dubai to New York. And I was
Yeah.
talking to one guy right next to me. And in my head, even though we were chatting the whole flight, I kind of formulated like certain pieces, right, of the marketplace. It kind of like helped me to crystallize the structure, even though we were not chatting about it per se, but we were, but in my mind, it's almost like I was thinking and talking in parallel. Okay, it's kind
Yeah,
of
I've
interesting.
had that. I've had that as well. Like even during these podcasts and example, we're talking, but I'm also thinking the next thing to say. Like, was that what's happening to you?
Something like that, yes. And then,
Yeah.
I mean, okay, all of a sudden I realized, you know what? I mean, a lot can be done with this. And then I started talking to a lot more people. And then you started getting, like, let's say, some ideas. How do you approach investors? How do you do this? How do you approach
Yeah.
dealers? You gotta sign up dealerships as well. I mean, those are 10 mil. I mean, just one dealership could be $10 million company, right?
Yeah.
And if you sign up, like, let's say 20 of them, we're talking about hundreds of millions, right? How do you actually approach something like that? It's a pretty challenging, right, environment, and you got to do that. And so we signed up over 100 of them. It took a lot of hard work. But the point is, I guess, now that I kind of like reflect back, again, you just had those mini, stepping stones, that just happen along the way. I got the data, then I got the matching, tools. Then I did some estimations. Then I realized, oh, hold on a second. I can actually apply it to automotive. Then I realized,
Yeah.
hold on a second, it can be actually applied to a lot of other things.
Everything. Yeah.
Yes, and so then you say, well, I need a team. So what do I do? Then you say, I need investors. So what do I do? I need the supply side, of the whole
So many
machine
issues to
market.
like think about as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it's a grind no matter where you're going, because I mean technically speaking, whenever you open a business that has a huge scalability, okay, potential, because something like that's the company can be easily be 100 billion. Because think about this: what is Uber? About 100 billion, right? Well, we can do exactly what Uber is. Why? Because I can bid, I can look up Uber rides for, let's say, airport to somewhere else, right, where I'm trying to go, and it's $28. Well, if Let You Know is available, I can bid 26, right? I mean, it's exactly the same thing. So, and quite honestly, all of these riding, like let's say, I'm talking about like all these routes. Well, we're about to roll out shipping on our marketplace, and so for cars. But what is shipping? Well, it's you shipping, let's
The
say, a
cost as well. You
car.
can pick that
Well,
as
yeah,
well.
but from point A to point B. Well, that's the same as driving a car, right? From point A to
Yeah.
point B, and all this logistics. Well, that's already done. So that means that we can actually roll it out like this. So my point is that whenever you deal with something of that magnitude, of something that's highly scalable like this, it becomes like a 360-degree panoramic view of so many things you have to tackle at once, right? Because you got to promote, you got to build investor relations, you got to have the supply side, you got to have the team that's capable, right, of coming up, by the way, with with some features and the infrastructure itself that has never been done before. It's not like you can just say, okay, ChatGPT, do that app for me, right? Well, because it hasn't been done before. I cannot like just all of a
Yeah.
sudden create something that,
That's funny you mentioned ChatGPT right there because I think a lot of people they assume that ChatGPT could just like come up with something like you just mentioned just out of nowhere.
I believe ChatGPT can actually simplify a lot of things. So, for
It
instance,
definitely can. I
okay,
mean,
think
because
about
I have a
yeah,
side project as well that it focuses on like HR firms, and, like those that type of stuff. And whenever you feed it like certain information, ask it to simplify it or do some sort of task that's very monotonous, it just does it instantly. It's super cool.
sure, exactly, and that's what it's great for, right? So
Have you
what
tried using
we
the API?
Well, I mean, we have our own artificial intelligence on the supply side because we have a lot of autopilot, et cetera, modes. Like, how do you actually get the sellers to
That's
leave
it. Yeah.
all the hidden prices and do that without them actually almost like doing it, So,
Yeah.
so it's pretty complicated stuff because people, by definition, I don't want to say that's a general rule, but we obviously kind of have that laziness in us, right? We don't want to, like, let's say if we can avoid doing something, we definitely want
If you can automate the task, like optimize it,
to.
you
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
want
yeah. So So definitely, that was the like a kind of like an impulse, to actually
Yeah.
come up with something like that. But anyway, but there are some shortcomings, right? Whenever you deal with like innovations, right? Inventing something that hasn't been done before, I'm not sure whether ChatGPT will be able to all of a sudden come up with ideas. And if it did, well, why not actually right now put in ChatGPT and go to the next star, right? So we
Yeah.
have a lot of different stars that we can travel to. Why even constrain ourselves to Mars? I mean, just have ChatGPT
Just
get
have
up.
to yeah.
Yeah, Proxima. I mean, Proxima is right.
I honestly think that there's gonna be a point where we could just do that, where we could like chat GPT some Mars expedition route. I honestly think it could happen.
But the key is it needs to be done before. So once somebody does it, yes, ChatGPT or something like this will
Not
definitely.
even that. I feel like if you have all the parts like that are necessary, but they're not connected,
Well, that's
I think
fine. That's
ChatGPT.
fine. But the key is you got to have the parts. I agree
Yeah.
100%. So and I'm obviously all for all of these artificial intelligence and stuff like that. But the key is I still have not seen somebody brainstorming something that just completely outside the box with ChatGPT, right? Like I'm not talking about all the
Yeah.
pieces in there. I'm just talking about like boom, all of a
No, I
sudden, like
get you. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that's why whenever we talk about it, it's more like, okay, let's actually optimize whatever we have, and we call it artificial intelligence because you can obviously run different variance models on it. Like when I say variance models, I'm talking about like imagine that you are trying to achieve point A, but you miss it by a little bit. Well, you can estimate by how much do you miss and you can recalibrate, right? So the artificial intelligence can do that, right? It can actually see by how much it's off, learn from itself, right? And
yeah.
recalibrate. But the key is it's actually based again on what we already know, but not something that all of a sudden, to come up out of
Yeah, I get you.
like, well, here we go. We have this time-space continuum, just like, let's say, Einstein came up with, right? When it was just never even heard of. Or like, let's say, time travels at different speed. It's like this kind of or flows, I guess, at different speed or gravitational force
Yeah.
that hasn't even before him nobody even thought of something like that, right? That time actually flows differently, like flows here at a different at a different pace than let's say right above Earth, on one of the satellites. So I mean,
Mhm.
how is the clock kind of like ticking at different speed? I mean, it's like inconceivable, and yet it
Yeah.
is true. Like so the point is to come up with something like that. I mean, that's a challenge, and that's where you probably still need that human ingenuity, right, to create these ideas.
Yeah.
But optimizing what we have, oh, absolutely. I mean, all that is exactly what we need the artificial intelligence for, because we are not good with repetitive tasks. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
it is, right? We get bored. So when we get bored, we make mistakes, right? But a lot of that stuff can be avoided, and I believe that's part of the reason a lot of companies are also pushing, like let's say, for autonomous, cars,
Autonomous driving.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So all the not just Tesla, but a whole bunch of other
yeah.
companies.
There's a lot of models are trying to do that. And
Sure.
one thing I want to touch on is that you are clearly like in a very big startup culture, very big startup space. What are some of the things that you see holding people back in these environments? Like, what do you ever see like some commonalities that are holding people back from reaching their full potential of these spaces? I mean, like, what is your opinion on that?
Well, I believe, that's again, that's my opinion, but I believe a lot of times if somebody is really constrained by something is because maybe, okay, they kind of succumbed to pressure that, they think that there is no way out. Like they kind of hit a wall, right? And when they hit that wall, they don't see that there is a solution because they think that's it. And, you know, that probably itself is what constrains a lot of
Really?
what kills a lot of
I guess the
startups.
unwillingness to like go past that failure and that obstacle.
Exactly. Because I mean, I've seen some people. I mean, I've seen a lot of companies, okay, that start with great ideas, and they think that somehow everybody are going to be as excited as they are about their product or service or
Yeah,
whatever they come up.
because they
And
search. I feel like they search for the solution first, instead of the problem first or something like that.
Yeah, and also they think that everybody going to be energized. Like take Tesla as an example, okay? So imagine that Elon Musk would be that kind of person who would be only guided by excitement of the public about EVs, right? And the car he or the cars he created, right? So 2003, 2004, 2005, no excitement. 2006, no excitement, right? Your work, you put a lot of money into it, right? You are looking for investors, right? Nobody wants to invest. You're looking for partnerships. Nobody wants
Yeah.
to talk to you, right? You just keep going. 2007, no results. I mean, like I'm going through the years, not just
Yeah.
days,
It's
years,
kind of
right?
weird. You don't really recognize how far they've come until you
Yeah,
revisit the
because
years. Yeah.
yeah, because you see a lot of people, okay, the way they look at it, this problem, they think like, oh, I know where this guy is now. Okay, it's pretty cool that he started way back, but we are looking at now, and they
Yeah.
always, come up with these fantasies that I'm gonna come up with some new idea, and I'm just gonna be like
And
here.
like yeah, exactly. Instead of like it's just straight to Z from A to
Exactly.
Z instantly. I mean, how did you guys like what was that? You guys probably went through something very similar to like that Tesla story of
Yeah.
like years of not being able to be successful. What were those years like? I'm seriously curious because whenever people think of entrepreneur, you instantly assume that as soon as you start the company, it's going to be a massive success. But it's such a fallacy because that's just never happens. I'm curious, like, what was the during that time period where you guys weren't making serious money? What was it like for you guys?
Well, I mean, we are still, I would say, in that process. So I don't
Oh
want
yeah,
to,
like I guess
okay,
now
yeah,
still, yeah.
definitely we are today way better than we used to be a year ago, 2 years, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, etc. I can tell you that much. And now the prospect of us actually creating a $1 billion company, now I don't want to say within a reach, but something like within our reach. And
Congratulations, man.
all
Congrats.
the pieces are kind of coming together, okay, and a lot of partnerships are coming together, and many other things are happening. But the key is, going back to your question, it's you just have to know that it's perfectly natural for you to persevere through time, and it just happens with everybody. Phil Knight with Nike, I mean, 70s, right? No results. Nobody was excited. 80s, right? It's like the guy put decade of work and no result. Look at Ford. Ford came up with with his automation, and everybody are talking about it, like how he put these factories, right, to automate the production. Like you have this assembly line, right, of creating these cars, right? But what about all the years? It was like over 20 years, that it took him
Yeah.
to get to that point. And it was like almost like a series of near bankruptcies, if not bankruptcies. And so what about that? But unfortunately, it just takes a lot of time. Whenever you have a real product and whenever you have something that a lot of people will value, it takes time. It takes time for people to get accustomed to. I remember there was a company back in '90s. I don't remember exact name, but I think it was General Magic or something like that. Anyway, those guys they came up with this idea that we can have something like a phone, a smartphone, okay? But it was
Yeah.
in the '90s, okay? And they raised
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and they raised serious money. I mean, they acted like a $1 billion company before they
Mhm.
were a $1 billion company, and they were burning like I'm talking about like hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And nobody bought the product back then, so they immediately folded. And there were a lot of genius people over there, and the reason for it is because they didn't have this instant gratification because the expectations were such that, well, it's definitely going to be a hit. Well,
Yeah.
no, it's not going to be a hit. But what would happen if you continued persevering, right, day by day, okay, year by year, and you get into 2005? Well, here we go. You would actually be before Steve Jobs. I mean, that's what would happen actually. So, and somebody can say it was just not their time. Well, it's easy
It's easy
justification.
to justify that
Yeah,
excuse of like it wasn't their
exactly.
time, but
Yeah,
you
but
can make the same argument for Tesla and Apple as
yeah,
well because like it wasn't their time, but they still made it still.
exactly. Because they could have folded so many times, right? But
Yeah.
they persevered and they continued on their path because they knew that the time is it's like a it's not exactly something that works against you. Yes, it costs you money to survive over time, but at the same time, a lot more people get to know you. You are getting, you're getting to become a really good product because you put a lot more testing.
Yeah.
You have something that becomes better and better. And all of a sudden, okay, give it another, like, let's say 10 years, a lot more people realized, oh, hold on a second. Look at these guys. They just came out of nowhere. But
Yeah.
you see, but in reality, it was a culmination of all that hard work that preceded that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so the key is you just have to know that the instant gratification factor should be a non-factor. So take it out, forget about those fantasies. Okay, use those fantasies to drive you forward. That is true. But then forget about that so you wouldn't get discouraged, and just know that it will take a long time for you to achieve it. But if you are consistent and you are persevering and you just keep on working on something that will revolutionize the whole industry, well, it will happen. I mean, it's just a matter of time, before it does. But when it does happen, here you go. You're going to scale the company. And a lot of other people, they think like something is going to be like instant. First of all, okay, think about this. You got to conquer, okay, a market share. Well, that's not going to be instant because nobody's going to know you like this.
Yeah,
And
no one's gonna, yeah.
Yeah, and if you think, well, we're going to raise a lot of money, well, hold on a second, put yourself in the shoes of investors. So you are now pitching them that you just need money for them to trust you, for them, okay, to know that now you're going to advertise. Well, they're not going to, like, let's say, fund your hypothesis,
Yeah.
because they want to see how you do
They want to
without
see the
them.
results.
Exactly. Get at least something going first, then prove that it's working. Then they're going to say, hold on a second, now we're putting the money just to scale it. You see, that's the difference. Not like to fund your hypothesis, okay, and your fantasies, but at the same time, okay, they want to have some concrete, obviously, results. And that's typical mindset of a lot of, let's say, investors. And so a lot of these entrepreneurs, whenever they see that, oh, we are not getting funded, because if only we had 50 million, if only we had 100 million,
Yeah. If
had,
anyone,
yeah, I mean, it's always like if only,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, then it becomes like this fallacy, and the key is, it just means that you just have to work hard and find those angles, pivot your product, and etc., and eventually, okay, if you are consistent, if you're, again, not just sitting, when I say that time works in your favor, I'm not talking about you just sitting doing nothing. I'm talking
Yeah.
about you going through
Working every day, even if there's no results as well.
exactly. Put in 100%. Yes, no return, no nothing, but that doesn't matter. You just keep on working, keep on marching forward. Yes, all of a sudden you're going to see that a lot of things that were impossible a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, inconceivable, all of a
Yeah.
sudden, all of those are coming to fruition for you, and you see the results, but that takes time, it's
Yeah.
just, that's what it is.
I think I will like it's a very interesting concept as well because I just find the idea that we all assume that when we start a project or we start a company, it's going to become an instant success. Like we always assume that to be the case. And I just think it's so interesting how we always subscribe to that ideology instead of appreciating, because we always focus on the destination instead of the journey as well. I imagine like during your journey and let you know, you learn stuff that you would never think you would need to learn or could possibly learn. And I find that to be extremely interesting. And speaking of learning, I kind of want to pivot to your TED talk because that's a really impressive, like that's a really impressive accomplishment. And I just want to go over it before we close out, just because I find it to be really cool. Like, what was the whole process like for you?
You mean to get on TEDx? So those guys approached us because the concept of let you know, right, empowering consumers to think about this. I mean, it's something that doesn't exist. You just, like, let's say you want to get something, and you get to bid your own price with instant results. Not like you bid, there is some back and forth, whatever. Like you just bid and boom, instantly it's a yes or no. If it's a yes, transaction is done. Okay,
Yeah,
and that those are the matching, algos that we have put in place. So they saw the value, and then the way it works is they assign coaches for you. So, I mean, you develop your own speech. No, that's how it works. It's not like somebody going to do it for you. but they go over to make sure that everything clicks, and you practice with them, and they get you prepared. So there is a lot of help that you are getting as well. Plus, of course, I have my own team, that help me out as well.
Yeah.
And so that's valuable. The more input you're gonna get, the better. It's just the way it goes.
That's definitely very, very true.
So you have different perspectives, right? What catches people's opinions, like, and catches people's attention and interest, and so anyway, once you have everything, like, let's say, prepared as far as your speech is concerned, I mean, then you present it. I mean, that's how it works. And there's typically like a group of people, I don't know, like 10 or 12, and you just go ahead and present it. And you bond actually, like, on that day. You did not know other, like, let's say, TEDx speakers, but you get to know them, and you get to listen their presentations, their ideas, and then you get to know those people. And so it becomes almost like this bonding experience, right, where you get to know a lot of other really smart people. And so it's valuable. I actually still stay in touch with quite a few of them, which is great.
Yeah.
Like I said, smart people are gold. So and that's what it was. Now the presentation itself, or I guess the talk, it is kind of cool because you have a lot of people in the audience, right?
Yeah.
And some people get nervous. I can tell you that it's not uncommon that somebody will just have those jitters, those nerves, right before that happens. See, me, I had a little bit of an advantage from a perspective that I did teach classes, right? Because I was teaching at Ball State, and I had years of experience talking to a huge, a group of people, right? I
Yeah.
mean, some of my classes were pretty big, and that definitely prepares you a lot better, to have this public speaking, a little bit more polished than I would have otherwise, right? So to me, I wasn't really nervous or anything like this. It was more like exciting. I saw a whole bunch of people. They really want to
Yeah.
learn, and you want to tell your story. You want to enlighten them, and hopefully something that you say will resonate and will ignite somebody else's ideas, right? And so I took it, from that angle. And so, and I kind of saw some reciprocity, I guess, because when I was presenting Let You Know, all of a sudden I saw a lot of people, kind of like their eyes lit up. Okay, they get excited. Oh man, I can actually do this now,
Yeah.
and so you get reinforced in terms of what you are trying to talk about. All of a sudden it clicks with people, and it's a pretty cool experience, so absolutely.
That's really cool. I want to personally go on a TED Talk one day or do a TEDx talk. So hopefully I get that going. And just to close
Yeah.
out, because you've given some fantastic information, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but like, what is your, let's say hypothetically, there's someone in this audience who's very young and they want to achieve some of the same things that you have of having their own corporation, doing a TEDx talk, being as academically uh, suited as you are and acclaimed. How can someone go about achieving the level of success that you have as well, becoming the type of person that you are? Like, what would be your blueprint that you give to them? Or like, what would be some key things you tell?
You just got to work hard. And the key is you must not take anything personally. That's the key. You gotta have the right mindset where you're gonna persevere, and not in a stubborn way, like where it's my way or the highway. You gotta be malleable in a way that you gotta be able to pivot to all these different challenges and change a little bit. That's something that is going to be a part of your journey. But at the same time, you just have to stick to your course and just work hard and not
Yeah,
get discouraged. I mean, that's the key. And prepare to put, hard work to the power of infinity. I understand, in the limit, I guess. Okay,
Yeah.
something. Okay. Anyway, so the point is, it's not
Hard
going to
work to the
be.
power of infinity. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to be easy, okay? But just have that expectation. And maybe if somebody does have that expectation, if somebody understands that it's not going to be all of a sudden an instant gratification of whatever they do to become a high success, well, they may actually enjoy it a lot more as well, right? Because then you at least perceive challenges in a positive light rather than being negative. And then you welcome those opportunities, right? And all of a sudden, think about this. I mean, let's say there are people who are going to be, in the initially, they're going to be quite a few who are going to doubt whatever you have as a proposition, right? That is going to work or not. And that's normal. That's actually something that should be built in your expectation because we human beings are not exactly receptive to new ideas from get-go. It takes time for us to get used to something, okay? Then once we are used to something, then we think that we actually came up with that,
Yeah.
and we share that with the world, right? That we say, oh, how cool that is, or how cool that is. But the key is it takes time for us to get used to something new, and that's normal. And so be prepared for something like that. But at the same time, if you stay the course, if you persevere, and you're going to continue, okay, put in that hard work, you're going to see some of the people who doubted you in the past all of a sudden turning 180 degrees, and they're going to say, hold on a second, this person actually has something of value as their proposition to me. I really like that idea. Well,
Yeah.
you're going to see that switch, and that could be, that mini gratification. And then you're going to see more of this. And as it happens, just continue the hard work, and don't get dissuaded, on achieving that sort of like that, your goal, right?
Yeah.
At the end, that you set yourself, as your objective. So you just gotta stay the course, work super hard, and good things will happen. So that's what's up.
That's a very, very good answer. I think that the idea of hard work is very undervalued now because like you mentioned earlier, we're so used to the instant gratification in our everyday lives. But the hard work and like those years and years of grinding are very like undervalued. We don't really see it at all. We don't see the private victories. We always see the public ones of like the Elon
Right.
Musk, but we don't see like all the times that he failed. And seriously, man, I appreciate you so much for coming on and talking to us. You gave some great, I really mean some great information that I think a lot of people will benefit from. So again, thank you so much, man.
Well, thank you. And listen, Rohan, those were great questions, So
Thanks.
again, see, I wouldn't have actually maybe provided something of value if not for your questions. And that goes back to information exchange and how human beings, right, interact and create something out of seemingly nothing, right?
Yeah,
But just communicating, and sharing ideas. So fist bump to you. And, this was awesome. Thank you so much.
no problem, man. All right. That's it for today, guys. Hope you guys have a great day and thank you so much, man.